Okay, I think we're live. Oh, I gotta turn chat back on. That's a problem. And chat is on. Okay. Well, chat should be on. Here we go. All right. Well, welcome to the Rogue One live chat discussion. I hope everyone has seen the movie already because we're going to be talking spoilers a lot. Um, but my plan is to just kind of it'll be like a normal Q&A. I'm going to switch between Patreon questions and live chat questions and we'll just go for a while. um, so here we go. Now I can see the chat. Perfect. Gonna start with a Patreon question from the Screen Avenger who asked what my favorite moment in Rogue One was, and that's pretty easy. I think everyone is gonna have, or a lot of people are gonna have the same favorite moment, and that's the very end with Darth Vader, because that was mind-blowingly awesome. It was exactly what I wanted. I said it in my review, I think, that I wanted him to be treated like a horror villain, like a unstoppable slasher, kind of like Jason type character, and they nailed it. He just tore that hallway apart, and it was terrifying and amazing. Like, you're just looking down that black hallway, and you know that lightsaber's about to turn on. They handled it perfectly. Like, it's one of my favorite Star Wars moments, period. So that was my favorite moment from Rogue One. Also, I had someone. If you also want to ask questions on Twitter, I will be taking those. Someone asked a good question last night. Let me make sure I got their name right. Let's at Badgermole97 said, for tomorrow's live stream, what surprised you in Rogue One? Because many of your predictions were spot on. Thank you for saying that. I did feel like, I mean, really, my main prediction was that all the characters would die, and I got that correct. My guesses on how they were going to die were completely off. But the things that surprised me the most, if my chair didn't have a back on it at this certain point, I would have fallen out of my seat. Like, I threw myself back, and it was when Red and Gold leaders showed up. I was not expecting a cameo like that. I was thinking it was just going to be Blue Squadron and that they would all get killed in that fight, but having Red and Gold Squadrons there, and not only that, but having like Red Leader and Gold Leader digitally recreated and done very well. Like, it was pure fan service, but I loved it. I had a big old goofy smile on my face. That was a complete surprise to me, and I really liked it. Austin Hill, why would Vader be on the planet with his worst memory? That's a pretty good question. I think it's probably because it's his worst memory. It kind of feeds his power. The dark side is all about pain and anger, and I'm sure being on Mustafar angers him and causes him pain and basically makes him stronger. Nathanon Sukchian, what are my thoughts on the troopers in this movie? Um, I the Death Troopers were kind of funny. Like, they did have one moment where they were very, very competent, but at the same time, they're what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't that scary just because they sounded like you were talking to them from a fast food restaurant. And their garbled transmissions and voices, I just thought it was weird. Um, the shore troopers looked cool. Like all the designs looked really cool. The new hover tank troopers, I liked all the designs, but um, they weren't anything special. I would say the Death Troopers just looked cool. Interesting fact though, the visual guide. I was looking through that yesterday when I got it, and they mentioned that the Death Troopers were named after a rumored secret Imperial project where they were working on a biological weapon that would um, re reanimate necrotic flesh. So, like the Death Troopers canonically are named after the Death Troopers from Legends, and that's pretty awesome. Let's hop back over to Patreon. Jake Pickering asks if I have any movie watching traditions, whether it be in the theater or at home. Not really. We at home we just kind of plop down on our couch. We have like this big couch with a big ottoman. We call it couch bed, and we just like fall into it. Um, at the movie theater, no real traditions. I might start wearing that suit every year now. I might have a Star Wars tradition, but um, it's not like we have a set snack or any rituals. It's just we go with friends. What we did this year is we had like 15 people with us, and we just got as many people as we could into one row. I told all my friends to remember any questions they had, and then afterwards, I just had them ask me questions, and I wrote them down for content later. Will Skolton, what did I think of Tarkin? I am kind of on the fence about it. I did think that he looked mostly good. I was impressed with the technology, but he still was in that uncanny valley where sometimes he just looked a little off. Um, like I thought the technology in Ant-Man and Captain America Civil War, I thought that went a little better. Um, but the first time he turned around and you saw Tarkin's face, like I was not expecting that. That's another thing that surprised me. I was not expecting that they would straight up digitally recreate his face, so I was kind of thrilled to see Peter Cushing again. I thought they were just going to recast him, and I was totally fine with that. But overall, I just sometimes his face looked fantastic, and sometimes it was just a little off to me. So I'm on the fence about it. I like it. Sometimes I don't like it. I don't have a good answer. I'm sorry, but um, I think ultimately I'm glad that they went that direction. I just wish that the technology were a little bit better. Henrik Christensen from Patreon asks, Hi Alex, seeing Vader in the upcoming Rogue One got me thinking, did Vader make any changes to his armor between episodes 3 and 4? If not, why? I could see him maybe doing some hardware upgrades or something. Canon and Legends answers are always appreciated. Man, that is probably a good actual video. And off the top of my head, I don't know. I imagine that there were upgrades within those 19 years. Um, I know that there for sure were between episodes 4 and 5, so there had to be some between 3 and 4. Like, it's going to be outdated in 2 decades. But I will research that more, and I'll probably... That could be a cool video to do, like, the evolution of Darth Vader's armor. Alex1, nice name. Thoughts on the score for the movie? Honestly, I just need to listen to it again. Like, when I am seeing the movie for the first time, I'm just like... I'm trying to take everything in, and it's so hard. There aren't any tracks that immediately like are sticking with me, like Rey's theme in Force Awakens, the very end where she meets Luke, like those tracks really stuck with me. The March of the Resistance, I remember, but there wasn't anything really in Rogue One that I am like really remembering right now, so I can't feel like I can say whether it was good or bad because I just don't remember it. And I guess to a degree that's not a great thing, but I need to just, I know it's on Spotify now, so I should just sit and listen to it and try to refresh my memory. The Screen Avenger again. Who is your favorite character from Rogue One? Of the new characters, I think K2SO. I think he was the standout for me. I mentioned on my review that I felt like I didn't quite connect with all of the characters as much as I wanted to. I liked them all. I just wish we got to spend some more time with them in the first half of the movie, and the first half was just so fast that by the time we got to Scarif, I didn't feel crazy connected with them. But K2 had the most unique personality. He was making jokes. I felt like I got him the most. So I'll say that K2 right now is my favorite, but I'm going to try to see the movie again probably tomorrow, and I might change my answer there. uh, Speaking of the score again, Lava Lover 7. Do I think John Williams should have conducted the soundtrack? Um, Honestly, I'm cool that he did not, because with with having these movies come out every year now, he should be focusing on the saga films. I'm totally fine with that. These new movies are gonna have to have new composers because they can't just like lock John Williams up as much as we would want to. We can't just lock him up and have him cranking out new music constantly. So they need to experiment with new composers, and I would much prefer that John Williams focus on the saga films. Mason Morris on Patreon asks, which EU Legend Sith have been made canon? How would you most like to see, say, Revan incorporated into canon? Um, Really, the only one I can think of, I mean, now Plagueis was mentioned first in Revenge of the Sith, so I think Darth Bane is the only one that started in the EU and then was canonized. Darth Revan was almost made canon in the Clone Wars, but they decided to scrap the idea, which is a shame. I think that Revan is going to come back to the new canon at some point. He's like Thrawn. He's one of those really overly, not overly, just heavily loved characters. So I imagine at some point he's going to get at least a mention that his name will become canon. Um, as far as actually seeing him, I mean, the comics and the books can do whatever they want. It's a wide open universe, and right now, it seems like they're trying to tie everything into existing material, like with Catalyst or Ahsoka and Rebels, and the Thrawn book is going to be centered around Rebels. So I would hope that at some point they're just going to put out an Old Republic book, you know? Um, Got another. I'm having Molly send me Twitter questions as they come in. Hans Melby at Handsome L. By. I'm sorry. What do you think of seeing the Hammerheads in live action? Oh yeah, that was cool. That's a ship that started in Legends and then was canonized in Rebels and now made its first live action appearance, and that's awesome. I was not expecting the amount of Rebels Easter eggs that we got. Like, I knew the Hammerhead was in there. We saw it in the trailer, but not that it wasn't just an Easter egg. Like, it was heavily featured, and that's very cool. Like, I'm very happy with how integrated Gareth Edwards made Rebels, and I don't know if that was his choice, if he thought that would be cool, or if Lucasfilm was like, hey, just like slot a couple of these in there, like this is what we want. Either way, I'm happy about it. I love that they're bringing this much integration between the what I still call it the EU, but there's integration between the books and the comics and the shows and the films, and that's very cool. Sam T. Oh, it's going too fast. Any idea where the Rebels characters, the Ghost, were at the Battle of Yavin and Endor? Yeah, it's a good question. No, I don't have any real idea. I can guess. I I'm kind of hoping that the series finale of Star Wars Rebels is the Battle of Scarif, because they would get to take part in a really big, like the first fully integrated um, rebel attack, where like all of the cells have come together to attack Scarif. That I think would be a fitting end to the series. So, it's possible they could die. I really doubt it. I think they will survive the battle, at least most of them. And then I don't know. I have no idea where they would be after that. It's possible they just evacuated Yavin or they didn't return. Um, Same with Endor. Like, we just don't know. So no, I have no idea, unfortunately. But I'm sure that we're going to get an answer to that, especially now that they've included them in Rogue One and we know that they were alive at that point in time. Quick coffee break. All right, back over to Patreon. Another question from Screen Avenger. Um, oh, never mind. That's not a question. It's just a statement. From Mike Bazir. Oh no. The two people asked the same question. What surprised you most about Rogue One? I already answered that. Lucas de Carvalho Morea. Do you think the new EU is giving equal attention to both the original trilogy and the prequels? No, not really. I don't. I did a video before. It was a Q&A video where I was asked, "Is Disney ignoring the prequels?" And no, I don't think they're straight up ignoring the prequels, but I do think they're giving preference to the original trilogy, and to some degree the sequel trilogy. Most of the new content has been like between episodes 3 and 4, I would say. It's original trilogy era. I mean, we have gotten things like the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic and Dark Disciple. Ahsoka is kind of like in a gray area between the two, but we're getting ready to see like a new comic about Yoda and a new comic about Darth Maul. So they're not ignoring the prequels, but I don't think they're giving equal attention. We're really not seeing an even spread beyond all of the eras. What was my best scene? The Darth Vader scene. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Mike Basir, what surprised you most about Rogue One? That was the same question as the Twitter. So Mike Basir asked that as well on Patreon. I just happened to already answer it. Rogue 2, Nate in the Cosmos. Rogue 2 was mentioned in Empire Strikes Back. Thoughts? Rogue 2 was Zev Senesca, and that doesn't mean anything for future films. What I think we're going to learn is that Rogue Squadron was named after the heroes that sacrificed their lives in the Battle of Scarif, because they were all stuck on Scarif when it blew up. So I think to honor them, Rogue Squadron is going to take the call sign that they created. So that's all that means. That's just Zev Senesca's call sign, because he is in Rogue Squadron. He is Rogue 2. Hey, Tesco. Oh, hey, Daniel S. as well. Chase Carrington, what did I think of Krennic? I liked him. My fear is that I liked him because of the book Catalyst. I kind of walked out of the theater thinking, I'm really glad I read Catalyst, and I was afraid that the people that hadn't read Catalyst, that they're kind of missing out, that they didn't get the full story. So I don't think that's a good formula for a movie to follow. They shouldn't make a book required reading for full enjoyment, but at the same time, my friends that haven't read Catalyst, they seem to be fine about it. So I might think that only because I read Catalyst, and I'm like, oh, but there's so much more story to Krennic that I wish were just included in the film. But yeah, I liked him. I just felt like I understood him more, and his rivalry with Tarkin thanks to Catalyst, and I wish that they had expanded on that a little bit within the film. Let's take another Twitter question real quick. At Bruno Doamaral, all these names, I can't pronounce them. Do you think the Battlefront Scarif DLC hints toward the original ending? From the earlier trailers, we see the differences. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, like, there was a whole... They're trying to get the plans, and then they have to run back outside and get to a U-Wing. I do think that the original plan was always to transmit... Sorry, I think the original ending was always going to be that they have to transmit the plans, but I think it was just going to be played out in a different way. I think they were going to get the plans and then, yeah, have to run out because there was, like, in the teaser trailer, we saw them all running on the beach and the AT-ACTs shooting at them. Jin's out there, Cassian's out there, K2SO's out there. We didn't see that scene in the movie. So I do think that they were all supposed to get outside and probably run, trying to get back to a U-Wing. And then when that failed, they were like, we're stuck here, let's transmit the plans. That's what I think the original ending likely was. But, yeah, I think maybe it's possible the Scarif Battlefront DLC is hinting towards that and that they didn't, like, get the memo on the plot change. So I really hope that when the Blu-ray comes out, we get a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. I hope they're very candid about the reshoots and what was changed. Like, I'm very happy with how the movie came out, but I'm also incredibly interested to see what was originally going to happen. Like, I want to see deleted scenes. I hope there's a commentary where Gareth goes into what was originally supposed to happen and what was changed. Casey Miller on Patreon asked a doozy, do you think Old Ben could have stood a chance against Vader in their final duel? They seemed fairly even to me. The only reason I could see for his loss is that fatigue was just starting to set in, so he gave up. I could see people toss around the idea that he felt Luke was meant to redeem his father or something, but it's pretty obvious that Ben had lost all hope for Anakin's redemption and intended for Luke to unknowingly kill his father. You could say that they wanted to wait until Luke was strong enough to know the truth, but even after being deemed ready to possibly win, Yoda was hesitant to tell Luke the truth. I've rambled, I know, but I'm rationalizing why I think the redemption explanation doesn't work. So again, could Ben have won? And if he could have, why do you think he didn't? I don't think he could have won, personally, especially after seeing Rogue One and seeing what Vader can do. Now, I know that in A New Hope, it was more just... It was two old men fighting with sticks, and there wasn't any choreography because they just didn't... That's not what it was about. It was more about, like, the story behind the fight than having a really good fight, you know? So, even so, I think that Obi-Wan knew he probably wasn't going to make it out of there. With lines like, when I left you, I was but the learner, now I'm the master. Like, yeah, that's cocky, but I think that Vader is also right. I think he was stronger than Obi-Wan. I think he was ready to take him on. And Obi-Wan probably just sacrificed himself so that Luke would leave, because if there were any hope of Obi-Wan getting on the Falcon with them, they probably wouldn't have left. So Obi-Wan was just like, I'm gonna let go and they can get out of here. So personally, I don't think that Ben ever stood a chance against Vader. Hey, Geekdom 101. Good to see you. Man, the questions are always going by so fast. Chase Garrington, I think I already answered a question for you, but that's fine. Do you think they will kill all the new characters to avoid contradiction in the canon? Or do I think that that's why they killed them? Probably part of it. Probably also part of it was just shock value. Let's answer one from someone new. Jonathan Gomez, did you notice the Darksaber reference? Yeah, I did catch that. I think it was also mentioned in Catalyst. Some of the project names that they were rattling off, like Pax Aurora was one, that was in Catalyst. Like, I think those were all the different components of the Death Star. And I forget what Black Saber was. But yeah, that also could be just a reference to the Dark Saber. How will this refer? ML Gator 2016. How will this refer to Star Wars Episode 8? I don't know that it will, and I don't know that it needs to. It's a standalone film. I think this was an experiment for Lucasfilm. Like, let's just see how the audience responds to a completely standalone movie. It's possible that we learned something about Episode 8, like maybe Darth Vader's attendant at his Mustafar Palace. Maybe that guy is like part of the Acolytes of Beyond or something. But really, I think Rogue One was meant to be completely standalone and not necessarily reference anything in Episode 8. Hopping over to Twitter, at NotDanielT asks, could you rank all 8 Star Wars movies in your opinion? Right now, I'll try, because I'm still hesitant on where I put Rogue One. I know starting from the bottom it goes 2, 1, 3 for me. Right now, off the top of my head, I want to go 2, 1, 3, 6, Rogue One, 7, 5, 4. Got all my numbers jumbled. But A New Hope has always been my top. It's going to remain my top. Empire Strikes Back, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Return of the Jedi, which really I think those 3, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and Return of the Jedi, are kind of the ones that I'm like not sure where they all place. I need to see Rogue One again before I definitively put them anywhere, but it's in there somewhere. Apple was my idea. Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Star Wars explained. I'll try. Space Doc, there is a Patreon comment thread. So just look for one of my last 2 posts and stick a question in there. Also, hi Daniel, good to see you. Ooh, Steve Haywood, do you think we'll get more backstory regarding the Guardians of the Wills? Yes, I do. If you can hear that dog barking, it's my neighbors, and I'm sorry. They're barking all the time. The Guardians of the Wills, yeah, I think we're definitely going to revisit Jedha. I think we're going to learn more about what the Wills are. That's another thing that was kind of from Legends. I mean, it was always part of the original script, so I don't know if you can consider it a completely Legends thing, but I think we're going to learn more about the Jedi. I think we're going to see a story about Jedha, hopefully from a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And I think we're going to learn a lot about the people that believe in the Force, and I guess maybe they were servants to the Jedi or the protectors of their lore. Yeah, like we don't know anything about the Guardians of the Wills right now, and I really hope we get to learn more about that. Joel Schooler asks, what were the original fan theories for who Luke's mother was? I know that Vader was spoiled during an interview, but was there any popular fan theories or EU exploration on this topic? Great question. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for that. That would be really interesting to look into. I know that he didn't learn who she was until, like, the Dark Nest crisis, which was late in the EU. So, yeah. I'm going to look into that. I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm going to run over to Twitter. At B. Glickster asks, was Vader in the tank to recover from the Ahsoka battle? I really doubt it, because that happened at least a year. I mean, we don't know exactly. I think at this point we are about a year off of the events of Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels. I'm not sure on my math, but the Ahsoka battle happened, and then I think they said 6 months, or maybe it was 16 months after that, uh, there is when season three picks up. So Vader would have been recovered by that, and he really wasn't that messed up. I mean, he got his mask cut off. Oh, that's a good point. Someone asked earlier about if he ever got any hardware upgrades. I mean, he had to have replaced his mask, so yeah, there's a replacement at least between episodes 3 and 4. So no, I don't think he was recovering from the Ahsoka battle. I think it's possible he just kind of hangs out in there sometimes. Like maybe he needs constant healing. Maybe he was that messed up from Mustafar before. So, or maybe we'll get a story about what he was doing right before Rogue One. That could be cool. But no, I don't think it was the Ahsoka battle. Jesse Taryn, did I hear the General Syndulla call out in Rogue One? Yes, I did. And my first thought was like Cham, and then I was like, oh no, it's Hera. Like, I'm not used to hearing her being called a general, but obviously by that point she's going to have her promotion. Georgios Valeris, hey Star Wars Explained, what do you think we will see in the mid-season of Star Wars Rebels? Well, we've got the mid-season finale, so it's more what do we think is going to happen in the second season. I think Obi-Wan's going to make an appearance. Um, it's hard to guess what Thrawn's going to do. I hope we see the TIE Defender in action. I really hope that they kind of step up Thrawn's game. I hope he gets the Rebels on the ropes. The An Inside Man episode was really good. It was a good start. Like, I want them to keep building off of that. I want Thrawn to really be a problem for the Rebels. And right now, he just keeps, like, letting them get away. And it's, like, all part of his master plan. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but also maybe do something about them. And An Inside Man started to change that. He actually did try to catch them, so that's cool. But I want to see more of that. I want them to really, really be in trouble from Thrawn. Excuse me. Riley Amidin asks on Patreon, during the Battle of Endor, we saw Home One take a direct hit from the Death Star's super laser. What type of shield did that ship have to have in order to take a hit like that? The Home One actually was never shot by the super laser. It was the Liberty, I think. And it didn't take that hit. I mean, it took it, but it blew up. So, the Home One and the Liberty, two different things. The Home One itself never took a hit. And he asked two other questions, so I'm just going to go through all of them. I was rewatching the Clone Wars and noticed that Emperor Palpatine conversed with a few different species and languages other than basic. How many languages could Palpy speak? Holy cow. I have no idea. I'm actually surprised he knows any alien languages. I mean, I guess he'd have to, considering he's the Chancellor. But he's like an alien hater, so it's kind of funny that he knows any alien languages at all. Apple was my idea. Alex says, I'm finally allowed to talk about this. I can tell you a few things about the cut Vader scenes and alternate ending. Most Vader scenes were cut due to being too violent. Be interested to hear your source. Space Dock, the Mon Calamari cruisers Liberty and Defiance both took hits from the super laser and both got destroyed immediately. Well, if anyone were to know the answer to that, it would be you. If you guys have never checked out Space Dock, do it. He's got a great channel, talks about spaceships of all sci-fi realms, and it's very cool. It's been a minute since I did a Twitter question. At AlexDunn03, great name. Since Battlefront 2 is likely to have a campaign set during the sequel trilogy, got any story ideas? One little note there. Elliot from Battlefront Updates actually contacted the guy that was interviewed and apparently said that there was a campaign. He never said that. IGN kind of blew what he said out of proportion. I do think there's going to be a campaign in Battlefront, so this whole conversation is kind of moot, but as of right now, there is no definite confirmation from EA that there will be. They just said that they're learning from their mistakes and they're going to make the second game better, so if they don't include a campaign, it's like, okay, did you really learn anything? But um, a campaign during the sequel trilogy, I think I would be down for that. Like, especially if it were kind of like only tenuously connected to the Force Awakens and what was going on. Like, I would like to be a part of. I would like to see what the Resistance is up to, or maybe we could start in the New Republic Navy, and then it would be a story about working your way into the Resistance. We could kind of see the inner workings of both factions. That could be interesting. So, um, yeah, I guess that's my story idea. I wouldn't want it to be like, let's just relive The Force Awakens. I would hope that it would give us some new insights. Running back over to Patreon, Riley Amadin. Based on the last episodes of The Rebels, we saw the Night Sisters come back as spirits. Could this be seen as another version of a Force ghost? If yes, now that we know the spirits can possess living beings, could Force ghosts possess a person as well? You're asking very interesting questions that I just do not have the answers to. But let's think about this. I guess it's possible that Force ghosts could do that. It's more that it seems like it's just a light side ability, so it's unlikely that they ever would do that. I'll try to do some more research on that. I don't know that there is any out there, but that is a good point about the Night Sisters coming back. Like, I wouldn't say it's explicitly the same as a Force Ghost because they seem to be trapped by their temple or that cave or whatever. So their power is more contained, and the Night Sister magic came directly from Dathomir. So I think it probably has more to do with their connection to that planet. I mean, we already knew that they could raise the dead, so I think it's probably more along those lines. But yeah, it is an aspect of the Force, so I would say that it is a Force ghost to some degree. It just works differently. And I guess that would, I mean, they say that, man, there's a lot to think about in this. Like, they have said that being a Force ghost in the way that we see Obi-Wan and Yoda, that's a light side exclusive ability. But, I mean, here we see the Night Sisters doing it. So, yeah, that's going to take some more research and some more thought. On YouTube, SW101 asks, Star Wars Explained, do you like the idea of a new dimension from the Han Solo comic? Not really. Like, I don't hate it. It didn't bother me so much. In that story, I felt like it just didn't make sense. It came out of nowhere. I guess they built towards it a little bit, but I feel like the Star Wars universe is already so big. We don't need a new dimension as well. And I don't know, it just seemed unnecessary. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm also not like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. That's really all I have to say about it. All right, Twitter question. Um, Actually, Molly just sent me. Oh wow, I guess someone has a cam of Rogue One already, and it seems that they have found Chopper. Let me make sure I show this well. But come on, focus. There's Chopper. It's hard to make him out, but oh yeah, that's the scene everyone's talking about. Okay, with Mon Mothma and General Draven and the communications guy, and Chopper's over there on the left. So next time I see him, or see the movie, I'll have to keep an eye out. That's awesome. At Obi's Edits asks, what was my favorite K2 moment? Um, I mean, that of all of the deaths, like I did a video where I was guessing how each character would die. My guess was that K2 would have like a Hodor moment from Game of Thrones, like he's gonna hold back the enemy to keep Cassian safe, and that's pretty much what happened. So he locked the door, he got the troopers away from Cassian, and he had like a really cool last stand. So I of course really liked that. I liked all of his lines. Probably my favorite moment, especially comedically, was when Bodhi was like, "If they close the shield, we'll smash into it and die in the vacuum of space." And he's like, "I won't. I can survive in space." I liked that. My favorite line was probably Churut when they put the bag over his head and he's like, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." I loved that. Master Applesauce asks, "What do you think of the third spin-off movie will be about after the Han Solo movie?" I think it's possible that they'll revisit the Boba Fett movie that was supposed to happen in place of the Han Solo movie. That was supposed to be the second one. So I think they're probably going to revisit that at some point. I kind of hope they do something else. I would prefer that instead of just saying, okay, Han Solo movie, Boba Fett movie, Obi-Wan movie, although I would totally watch that. Instead of just picking characters to make movies around, I would prefer, and Kathleen Kennedy has said something to this effect, I want them to find cool stories and then put characters in them if they make sense. Like, that's what she said happened with Saw Gerrera. I just think it would be more interesting if they found stuff like Rogue One. Rogue One is a perfect idea where it's like, let's find something that we know happened and tell the story behind it in a very cool way. The Battle of Tanab, maybe. Like, I saw a Reddit post on this and someone recommended, like, it was all about what random lines from Star Wars can we take to make movies about. It was just a fun thing, but like the Battle of Tanab would be interesting. And maybe we'll see that in the Han Solo movie. But off the top of my head, I can't really think of something like that. But I just want them to do something completely new. Honestly, they should go Old Republic. Like, tell a crazy, unrelated Star Wars story. It just takes place in the Star Wars galaxy, and it's very tenuously connected to the rest of the films. Like, do something really bizarre, Disney. Just test the waters. Like, people are gonna see it. It's like Marvel did Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was a fantastic movie, and it's so strange, but everyone loved it. Like, do something that we've never seen before. That's what I want the third anthology movie to be. Whoa, long answer. Sorry about that. Back over to Patreon. Michael Giheb asks, "What happened to Cad Bane after the Clone Wars?" We don't really know. We do know that, and there goes those dogs again. Sorry if you can hear those. My neighbors have like 6 dogs on their porch, and they're constantly barking. So what happened to Cad Bane? We don't know yet. We do know that there were going to be some episodes involving him training Boba Fett in season 7 of the Clone Wars, which never happened. I think we'll probably get that story at some point because they have taken like all of those abandoned story arcs and talked about them, like the Ahsoka novel or Dark Disciple, or they've released 2 story reels, the Crystal Crisis, which talks about kyber crystals, and the Bad Batch. So I think we're going to get that story at some point. I don't think we've seen the last of Cad Bane, but after he trained Boba Fett, and I do consider that to be pseudo-canon, since the rest of the... Like, they have said that they're treating everything that they planned for Clone Wars like it happened. Like in the case of Ahsoka. That could also mean that the Yuzon Vong could come in at some point. I doubt they're going to do that, but they were planned for season 7. So, yeah, I can't really answer your specific question. Sorry, Michael. All my patrons are asking really, like, tough questions that don't really have answers. I mean, they're engaging questions. It's like, I'm sorry, I feel like I can't answer anything. Daniel S., glad you're here. You're always asking questions. I got to answer one from you. Do you think Bail Organa was used enough? Yeah, I think so. He was used a good amount. It wasn't like in your face. He had, 2 or 3 scenes, and it was just nice to see him. It's nice to have that connective tissue between the prequels and the original trilogy. That's something that Rogue One did very, very well. Is it reminded us that we are in the same universe, and another visual guide thing that's really cool. Jin's toys, young Jin, when she's on Lamu, she has a bunch of toys, and some of them are like handmade Clone Wars era ships and stuff, and that's cool. Peter Rogue, I'm sorry. What do you think about? Excuse me. Just inhaled my own spit. What do you think about the fact that new types of stormtroopers that are not seen in the original three movies, will there be any explanation for this plot hole? I've done a video about that and why they probably wouldn't show up. It's possible the Death Troopers were all killed on the Battle of Scarif. We also know that they were just meant to be like personal bodyguards, like tiny personal armies, and they seem to be kind of experimental based on what I'm reading in the visual guide. I'm going to do a whole video on the Death Troopers, but I think that it's more that they were very, very specialized. So, and they might have all been wiped out. So that might be the explanation there. Shore troopers, they're meant for the beach, I guess, and we've never really seen beaches anywhere else in Star Wars. Was there anything else? The hover tank troopers, we just haven't seen tanks, but we have seen a tank and a hover tank trooper in the Han Solo comic, so they're starting to bring those back, or introduce them, I should say. On Patreon, Matrograd asks or says Gareth Edwards has hinted that we will see Jedha again somewhere down the line. Do you think it's more likely that we'll see it during the sequel trilogy era or in some kind of Old Republic series film? I think it's more likely going to be prequel or Old Republic era. Could be in Star Wars Rebels. Like, now that Rogue One is out, I feel like the rest of the universe can explore that a little more freely, and they've said as much about Star Wars Rebels, so they might visit it in Rebels. Darth Maul, the Darth Maul comic might involve it. The Yoda stories that are coming out might involve it. So I definitely think we're going to see Jedha again. I really doubt it'll be sequel era since so much of it got destroyed. I mean, Jedha City's gone. Probably a lot of the temples are gone. So I doubt that there's going to be much to visit in the future. Let's hop on Twitter. At Lobo Films asks, would you have preferred to see a different death for Chirrut and Baze, and if so, what? I was talking about this with my friend. So, reading the visual guide, it sounds like Chirrut is not force sensitive, which I was guessing that he was, at least very lightly, because of how well he can fight. Looks like he's just very well trained, according to the visual guide, which I'm iffy on that. I would have preferred he just had some really light abilities. But we see him praying to open the door. I think what I would have liked to see, and this, a friend suggested part of this, and I brought it home, but when he's walking out to the master switch, it seemed a little too convenient that he was not getting shot and just walking out there slowly. So instead of having his chant be like, I don't know, protecting him, it would be interesting if he were getting hit and he was using the chant more to give him strength to continue. I think it would have been cool if he like got shot enough, he went down and like with his last dying breaths, he like reached out and he touched the force and he flipped the switch, and then like his faith would be, I guess, confirmed. He would be one with the force and the force would be with him and he could die very happy. For Baze, I wish he got to do more carnage, I guess. Like when Chirrut went down, he just kind of like walked around and shot a couple death troopers while he was getting shot himself. Like, I wish we saw him tear things up a little bit more. And then like he shot that death trooper and the grenade landed at his feet and he was just like, well, I guess that's it. And I mean, really, what else can you do with a grenade right there? But I wish that it were a little more. I wish he got to do a little more before going down completely. It all just happened so fast. And that's true of a lot of the deaths. Like, it was just like Bodhi, Chirrut, Baze, they all went incredibly fast. Galen too. And I wish we got to spend a little more time on their deaths and feeling sad about it, but there was a lot going on, and that's just war. So I don't know that I would really like change how they did it. I like the way it happened for the most part. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. Jesse Taryn, hey, if you would want any scene in Rogue One from your imagination, what would it be? I was kind of looking forward to that one scene on the beach where they're all just like running from the ATACTs, or actually running towards them. Um, so I want to see their deleted scenes really, but I don't know that there's anything I would necessarily add. I also wanted to see what was going to happen with the TIE fighter that faced off with Jin, what was going on there. So there are things that I am more interested in. I want to know what happened to those scenes and what the original plan was. But as far as new things that I wish that they had done, I can't really think of anything. The whole second half, like from Scarif on, I was very, very pleased with that movie. Joseph Satterwhite, Star Wars Explained, what did you think of the Death Troopers? Are the Dark Troopers... Also, the Dark Troopers are canon in Star Wars Commander, not the Sentry Troops from Rebels. Yeah, I do know that Star Wars Commander has canonized things like the Defender and like the Dark Trooper Phase 2. Commander, I feel, is... it's like pseudo-canon. To me, nothing is really going to be canon until it's actually in a story. Um, a mobile game just seems like they just kind of pick and choose what they want. I don't know how much say Lucasfilm has over that, but maybe it's a lot and maybe they're okay with it and I'm looking at it the wrong way, but to me nothing is truly canon until it's in a book or a comic or a story driven video game. Just the mobile games have been kind of what the Galaxy of Heroes, for example, is not canon, but Star Wars Commander is, and it's confusing, so I just kind of leave those to the side. Lucas Nid, I'm drinking coffee because I slept in and I'm still waking up. Albin Wickland, what did I think of Hello Greedo's review? I haven't watched it yet. He posted it last night and I haven't had time to watch it, but I'm probably going to right after this. So, sorry I can't answer you now, but I do plan on watching it. Nikolai Nirup, last year you made a video about you ranking the entire canon of the year. Are you going to do that again at the end of this year? Um, I think I'm going to. I don't know if it's going to be its own video. I might just make like an extra long canon update. So I'll talk about what came out in December. And then after that, just be like, here, I don't know if I'm going to rank it all because like this year so much came out, but I might say like, here are the essentials. Like definitely read this. You can skip this. Only read this if you are like really obsessed with this. Like, you know, um, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I think I'm going to do it to some degree. Whew, still a lot of questions to get through. Matthew Hopkins asks, says, I was watching Revenge of the Sith in preparation for Rogue One. Me too. And I thought of a question. In the Mace and Palpatine fight, Palpatine acts like he's super weak after getting scarred by the Force lightning. Once Anakin cuts off Mace's hand, he resumes being super powerful. I was wondering what you think would have happened if Anakin did not betray Mace. Do you think Palpatine could have fought both Jedi and won? I am of the opinion that Mace and Palpatine were evenly matched. He was definitely putting on a show of being super weak, but I I guess sometimes I think, and every time I talk about like lightsaber fights and people fighting each other versus like to me those are usually very subjective and just kind of opinions. So I usually just go on what happened. That's why I don't usually do what if videos or versus videos, because I just feel like I can't talk about that well. I like thinking in very concrete terms. Um, so when I see Mace beat Palpatine, like I think Palpatine was banking on Anakin coming. He maybe foresaw it. I don't think he would have let Mace kill him. I don't think that Mace completely overpowered him so that he was like knocked down and out for the count. But I don't think that it was him completely letting Mace win either. I don't think he could have taken on both of them if Anakin didn't betray Mace. Uh, I think that Sidious would have been in real trouble, but he knew what was going to happen. Terry Cleary asks what cup I'm drinking out of. It's kind of Star Wars related. Troy and Abed in the morning from Community, but we got our new Lando on there. I need to make a Han and Lando in the morning mug or something, but that's my mug. Red Ness, where was Vader's palace? Mustafar. Um, Pablo Hidalgo has confirmed that it's Mustafar, so there you go. Alex McLaughlin. McLaughlin? I'm sorry if I keep butchering names. He asks, what do you think of the Wat Tambor is Snoke theory? Oh boy. Here's how it goes if you don't know. No, I don't know this theory. I can already tell you, no, there's no way. Wat Tambor is clearly shown being killed, but I believe that he is actually a very powerful Force user and not only tricked Anakin that he was killed, and also the audience during all the confusion in the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin, Wat managed to slip into Obi-Wan's beard. Okay, thank God. I thought this was serious for a second. He waited there for 19 years until Obi-Wan and Vader fight again. Right before Obi-Wan is killed, he jumps out of his beard and into Vader's TIE fighter. After Vader was shot by Han, Wat revealed himself and acted as his therapist for however long. Snoke told Vader to drop him off at what we know now as Starkiller Base. Wat then built the entire thing. I mean, at least he has construction experience. Wat then built the entire thing himself, giving him the appearances he currently has as Snoke. By using the Force, he contacts Kylo Ren, tells him to be evil and join him. Also, Wat is Anakin's father. Shmi just doesn't remember because Wat wiped it from her mind. Alright, you had me for a second. I was like about to very gently let you down that that wasn't real, that there was no way. Sven Sateroy. Oh, man. Another name I'm butchering. I'm sorry. What happened to Liberty in Radis? That ship was not the Liberty. I read what it was. It's some really weird name. It was hard to pronounce. It is a Mon Calamari ship, but Vader boarded it, so I'm going to assume that Radis was either killed or captured. I'm trying to remember the name of that ship. I was laughing about the design with my friends. Like, that just seems so impractical. It's probable that that wasn't meant to be a warship, but you have like this big ship, and then like the command module is down on this stick, and then he's floating in his chair over a glass bubble so he can look at the battle. And my friend was like, why do that? Like, we have screens and cameras. You can command from the center of the ship and be protected. And Radis is probably the kind of guy to be like, no, I need to be in the thick of it. Like, strap me in a chair, put me in a little space bubble, give me a blaster, and send me out there. But it just seemed like you're a huge, big target, and like the TIE fighters were directly attacking that area. Like, be somewhere safer, Radis. Lucas Matudis. Do I like Back to the Future? Yes, I do. William Parks. Why was Leia at the battle? It doesn't make sense to me to send her into a dangerous situation. Well, I guess it's possible. I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm gonna maybe guess that she did that of her own volition, that it was something she wanted to do, and no one was going to stop her. So she went with Captain Antilles, and she always knew that she was going to head to Tatooine to get Obi-Wan at some point. So I am going to guess that it was her idea to join the fight, and maybe Bail was like, "Don't do that," and she did it anyway. I could see that happening. All right, hopping into Twitter. John Gregory Cars asks, "What are the odds that we see a certain rebel terrorist when Rebels returns?" Um, yeah, I think that's very possible. I think that now that we have seen Saw in Clone Wars and Rogue One, and like I said, uh, I think Dave Filoni or Pablo Hidalgo said now that Rogue One is out, Rebels can explore that time a little more and the events of it. So they might visit Jeddah. I would not be surprised at all if they Saw at some point. Um, Andrew D, what happened to Moroff? That's an interesting thing. I think that he was the victim of some reshoots. I think a lot of Saw Gerrera's people were the victim of reshoots because there are behind the scenes footage and pictures of Moroff and Warwick Davis's character and some of the other aliens on the beach. They're at Scarif. So I think that they were originally going to be part of the group that fought in the Battle of Scarif, and they were just all cut. So I imagine that he got off of Jeddah with the rest of Saw's people, but it's possible he died on Jeddah, but I think he escaped. I think he was meant to show up, and again, we'll have to wait until the Blu-ray comes out probably to really get an answer there. Kevin Adkins on Patreon asks, "Okay, went to Rogue One tonight. Not a big town. Oh, this is huge." um, Sorry, I'm just trying to read this real quick. Oh, I'm just going to read this. As we were walking up to the theater, I'm about to open the door, and there's Vader up against the glass with both hands up, cupped around his eyes. I was like, whoa. I about didn't see him until the last minute, went to the door as I walked in. I thought, why is he doing that? Looked around the main part of the theater. It was almost empty. I realized he was trying to look out at the parking lot for people, probably wondering the same thing I was. Where the heck is everyone? You're asking if there were only a few people. Your theater was only 10 to 15% full. My theater was packed, and I was at the Thursday at 7 p.m. show. So, yeah, I think that you're just from a small town and that your experience was not like the others. I'm sorry it was so empty. My audience the theater was full, and everyone was very respectful and there to enjoy the movie. Wants a Man with a Rogue One spoilers question. What did you think about Vader in the movie? I find it a nice touch seeing what he seems is his palace, like the Bast Palace, in what seems Mustafar. After all, the real Vader was born there, but I found his meeting with Krennic not a high note until the Force choke. Also, was he holding the bacta by himself, or what was going on in there? And does Vader have his own Igor? And his final scenes were just mind-blowing, since the ship appears to the last scene linking perfectly with Episode 4. Yeah, I've talked about Vader already, but I loved him. I actually really liked his scene with Krennic. I'm glad he was so sparingly used. I like his own little personal Igor. I also find it interesting that he has royal guards there. I'm wondering if they are there to guard him, or if they're there to keep an eye on him at the Emperor's request. Another question from Watson Man. What did I think of the human CGI characters? I've talked about them already today as well. I am on the fence about them. Sometimes I thought they looked fantastic, and sometimes I was like, a little uncanny valley for me. But I'm ultimately glad. It was really awesome to see Peter Cushing again. Luis Gerardo Gomez on YouTube. Did you hear the clone speaking in the Star Destroyer? almost at the end of Rogue One. Uh, no, I didn't catch any clones. Um, the clones were phased out. It's possible that Vader could have some in the 501st, but uh, I have no idea. Yeah, Daniel S. Perhaps Palpatine sent the royal guards there. I could totally see that. Joe Boss, what did I think of the Hammerhead being able to take down the Star Destroyers? Um, I'm okay with it. Like, I don't know enough about space physics, but if you got a disabled ship, if you just start applying thrust to it, yeah, you should be able to move it. So I thought it was cool. Like, I love that the one Star Destroyer just ripped the other one in half. So yeah, I was on board with that. And maybe someone with a physics degree in the comments can tell us whether or not that's actually possible. All right, I can't pronounce this at all. Like, it's just a bunch of jumbled letters. But he asked who was the guy that talked to Vader in the back to tank. He's named in the visual guide, and his name is like Vinte or Venti or something, and it just says he's Vader's aide. Um, he could be someone like along the lines of Sate Pestage, like or Yup Tashu, like a dark side admirer. All right, spoilers for Rogue One question. There's a part where the main battle where you see one, I think it was the second U-wing shooting a bluish blast at the kneecap of the AT-AT, resulting in blasting the knee apart. The only thing that I knew about that was the blue. It was an ion blast. Pretty sure saw the blast coming from a gun. You're correct, and not a port. You're correct. On the Battle of Hoth, they made a big deal about the snowspeeder not being able to use laser fire to damage the walkers. Did I miss something, or was it a new kind of laser? It was an ion blast. It was all my new information I'm trying to remember from the visual guide that I just like flipped through because I went straight to the U-wing. I wanted to see what that gun was, and it's like an ion laser cannon of some sort. So it wasn't just a straight laser; it was an ion blast. Also, the AT-ACTs, they're different from AT-ATs, and they're also 3 years before the Battle of Hoth. So this is probably just different technology, probably weaker armor. Maybe this is why the AT-ATs got stronger armor because they realized they could just be torn apart. But I think that the fact that these are different models explains why they were taken down. Especially like the X-wings, they took down an AT-ACT, and man, those scenes were cool. Watching those AT-ACTs go down. And I hop to Twitter real quick. What do you think? At Ert Malk asks what I thought of the Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan cameo, and what do I think they were doing at Jeddah. That's another moment that was like complete fan service, and I get it, and I liked it. I thought it was fun. What were they doing there? Great question, and I would be surprised if they don't answer that at some point. But I assume they're up to doing scum and villainy things, so I don't have an answer for what exactly they were doing there. I just think that they were walking around, probably getting the death sentence on their 12th system. Riley Amidin asks, the Death Troopers seemed to be almost alien-like. The way they spoke and moved was more humanoid to me. Do you think they were humanoids? If not, what the heck were they? I think they were humans. The visual guide says that they are actually augmented with experimental technology so that they're slightly more than human. But I do think they were humans at one point. It kind of reminded me of the Phase Zero Dark Troopers. They were clones that were basically forced into becoming cyborgs and receiving augmentations. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And especially the way they sounded. I think that was just like encrypted transmissions so that they could talk to each other and not have everyone hear like their plans. to me, I thought that was a little bit silly. It made them. I think it was meant to be scary, and it more made me laugh because it sounded like they were trying to order fast food. But that's about. Oh, we're getting to the end of the Patreon questions. Millen Grinfall asks if the movie made me cry at all. I was expecting to be an emotional wreck by the end because I was guessing that they would all die. But like I've mentioned, I think I just need to see the movie again. No, I didn't cry because I just didn't feel completely connected. And it could be just because I was just so overwhelmed and I was trying to take in everything and I was kind of stressing out because it's like I gotta watch this all, I gotta remember it all, I have to go home and do a review, which I was up doing until 3 a.m. So there was a lot on my mind. So I need to see it again, like stress free. I'm gonna try to go tomorrow. But to answer your question, no, I did not cry. Millennium TARDIS, did I hear the T-15 is obsolete? Yeah, did you hear about those new T-16s? I thought that was a really fun and clever reference and Easter egg. So that was like fan service done right. A really really obscure reference that just sounds like talking. They pulled that one off well. Jordy San says, "I hope Hera rescues Admiral Raddus from Vader. That could be cool." Someone asked what the Ghost is doing during the Battle of Yavin. There's a good idea. Maybe they're off rescuing Admiral Raddus. I would like to see more of Raddus, so I hope he's not dead. Popping onto Twitter. Molly is saying that I should clarify who Bale is talking about when he said that he would trust her with his life. I've seen some people asking if he's talking about Ahsoka. He was talking about a Jedi friend, and then he said I would trust her with my life. He's talking about two different people in that scene. First, Mon Mothma is talking about his Jedi friend, and he's talking about Obi-Wan. Then he says he can send someone to go get his Jedi friend, and she said it has to be someone you can trust, and he said I trust her with my life. He's talking about Leia. I don't think there was any reference to Ahsoka in the film, at least not one that we saw easily. On Patreon, Gurgly Arati says, "I loved that Leia was in the movie, and in the last few minutes I think they managed to glue Rogue One and A New Hope together seamlessly. I agree. Although it seems a bit silly now that Leia tries to save themselves by saying we are on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. In A New Hope, Vader is confident, but it feels like he only has a strong suspicion. It's kind of a good point. And Leia might have a chance to prove her innocence, but she was there, and Vader didn't have to trace the rebel spies to her. Hers was the only ship that was in physical contact with Raddus' ship, so I don't know. It adds up, but I feel Leia shouldn't have been there in the battle. What do you think? It changes the first Leia-Vader scene a bit for sure." That's a good point. So I'll try to rationalize it. We don't know how long they had been chased. I think Scarif is, like, if you were looking at a galactic map, I think it's in, like, the northeast of the galaxy. Tatooine is, like, still on the east side, but more south. We don't know how long exactly they were chasing each other, so I imagine the Tantive 4, when in hyperspace, they can change their, like, manifest, like, not manifest, their, whatever, your travel plans, like, oh, I can't remember the name for that. But she could change what they said that they were doing. They could probably alter records to say that we were going to Alderaan or we're from Alderaan, and technically Vader could look at that and be like, oh yeah, they're telling the truth, but obviously he knows what's up. So they were probably just like fake it till you make it kind of thing, like, let's lie and just stick to our story even though they know the truth. So that's a good point. It is something that now we kind of have to rationalize, because Vader does know, and he calls her out. He's like, come on, you weren't on a mercy mission. Several transmissions were beamed to this ship. Like, I saw it. So, and not even beamed, they were physically handed across a door. So yeah, that is something that needs a little bit of rationalization, but it's not huge. Graham Mandrick, is Battlefront going to be for the Xbox One? Please answer the question I've asked 30 times. I don't know. I assume. I'm I don't work for EA, but I mean the first Battlefront came out for Xbox One, so I assume the next one will. Uh, Mr. Bacon 18. Where was Phoenix Squadron and A Wings if all the Rebel cells were there, including the crew of the Ghost and the Hammerhead cruisers? Well, we don't exactly know what happens to Phoenix Squadron between now and then, so they could all be wiped out. I was kind of hoping we would see some blue A Wings flying around, but it's possible that Hera is, and those Hammerheads are all that's left. We're just going to have to keep watching Rebels to see. Matthew Hopkins asks, I didn't know which comment thread to post this in, so I did both. Now that we have seen Imperial guards at Vader's palace on Mustafar, what do you think their roles there are? Kind of touched on this. I thought they were only loyal to the Emperor. And also, what are your thoughts on the portrayal of Vader's character in the movie? I thought it was awesome. Yes, I loved Vader in the movie. And I kind of mentioned the Imperial guards might be there to protect Vader to a degree, but also might be there to keep him prisoner. We don't know. But I do think ultimately, yes, they are loyal to the Emperor first and foremost. Ryan O'Rourke on Patreon asks, did you think Baze's gun was overpowered? He cut down like 20 stormtroopers in a second on multiple occasions. Yeah, that gun was awesome. And it seemed like it had like an aimbot on it. Like he was looking through goggles and it was just kind of automatically shooting. Um, yeah, it was a little overpowered, but I liked it. And I'm assuming maybe it was custom made, so like we're never going to see anything like it again, but who knows? Okay, I'm gonna go for 12 more minutes because originally I was gonna do this until noon, but it's been a good run, so I'll answer a few more questions. Eternal Angel 183, why do you think Vader is in the Bacta tank? I don't know. It's possible he was injured earlier, or maybe he just needs to hang out in there every once in a while to heal. Like maybe his body is like so badly damaged and the injuries are so extensive that he just like needs to keep infection away. Maybe it's that bad, like it's just constantly making things worse. Um but I don't really know because we've never seen him do that before, but I mean, we've only seen in the original trilogy like a few days out of his entire life, so it's possible that he just needs to do this every once in a while. Oh, wow. Space Doc on Patreon asks, do you reckon the new Vader's castle might be the headquarters of the Imperial Inquisition? That's possible. I'd love to see it return in Rebels. Also, the thrust to weight ratio on that Hammerhead Corvette ramming was all wrong, but I'll let it slide since it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, if anyone were to know about that, it would be you. Um, that is an interesting point about the Imperial Inquisition. I think in Rebels we're done with the Inquisitors. I don't think they're going to come back, but it could still be revealed as the one-time headquarters for the Inquisitors, or we could see like a story that takes place before Rebels where we see that palace again. I don't think we've seen the last of that palace. Jeremy Staley asks if there was something about Rogue One I could have had them do differently. What would it be? Um, I think I would have just slowed down the pacing a little more in the first half. I've talked pretty extensively about that. Jameson Bennington, do I think the TIE Strikers were underused? Um, yeah, kinda. Like, on one hand, I like that they didn't even address them. They were just there flying around. and no one said anything like, "Oh, what's that?" But no one's ever done that regarding like the TIE Interceptor. It's just a thing that exists in the galaxy, and the rebel pilots just fight it. So I do kind of wish we got to see it in action a little bit more, or like how it works, because it's actually like a fighter slash bomber. It's a two-seater, and the back seat is for bombing. So it would have been interesting to see them used to that capacity. Mashed Potatoes 2000. What did I think of Saw's death? Relieved. I unfortunately really did not like Forrest Whitaker's portrayal of Saw. It was so strange. I think he was probably the victim of some reshoots, and it just came off as weird. So I was like, okay, good. He's out. Like, I'm glad they didn't linger on him too much. Over on Twitter, uh, at Callie Widgreen, how could the rebels on Jeddah see the kyber crystals? I thought just Force sensitives could see kyber crystals. They've been a little strange in explaining all that, but what I think is going on is they're not mining for them. Uh, I think it was the Ahsoka book that said that some Jedi temples were decorated with large kyber crystals. So it's not like they had to go looking for the kyber crystals. They were just taking them off the walls and then putting them into these canisters. So it's not like they had to go mining and distinguish them between ice and or regular crystals and kyber crystals. That's just my best guess, though. Flux Luke, best Vader stories. Read the Dark Lord trilogy from Legends. It's I think Rise of Vader, Labyrinth of Evil, and Revenge of the Sith novelization. Or no, that doesn't seem right. Maybe I'm just got them out of order. But there's like a Dark Lord trilogy, and I know Labyrinth of Evil and Revenge of the Sith are part of it, but those are Labyrinth of Evil technically isn't a Darth Vader story, but it's an Anakin story, and it helps explain things. Again, it's all Legends. In canon, I guess the Darth Vader comic. There aren't any books I would recommend. Lords of the Sith, that's a good one. Almost forgot about that one. And he's in Tarkin as well. So yeah, if you're talking just canon, Tarkin, Lords of the Sith, Darth Vader comic, Vader down. Like I'd read the Star Wars comic too, just because it's fun. Coleman Morrow, what did I think of CGI Tarkin? I've answered that already, but I'm sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't. Michael Davis, in Catalyst, the Lyra character is able to distinguish Kyber from other types of crystals. True. She also is slightly force sensitive, so I think that's even why she was sent on that expedition, is because she is able to distinguish between regular and kyber crystals. She's not like Jedi force sensitive, but there's a little something going on there. Carlos Javier Blanco Tuecos, what order would I recommend you watch the movies? If you are watching them for the first time, which I don't think you are, but any time that I try to get someone into Star Wars, I would always recommend that they watch it in the order that they were released. So 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, now 7, 8. Like, you need to watch them and see kind of how they build and evolve. And, like, to me, that's always the intended order that the creators want you to watch them in. But if you want to do like the anthology movies are now going to be adding this new extra complication, because you'll have the saga films and then you'll have something like this that is standalone and would really kind of just be a distraction from what's happening in the saga. It doesn't really fit in my opinion, where within the rest of the films. So if you just wanted to watch the saga films and then like you throw Rogue One in there randomly, like it would just derail the main story. So I don't know that I would recommend that you watch it, like put it in a viewing order with the saga. I think you would either just watch it on its own or like before or after or something. I don't know. What Star Wars character? Oh, where'd it go? Wolf King. What Star Wars Rebels character do you think will die in season three? Probably Thrawn. I don't think any of the main characters are going to die, at least not this season. I think maybe at some point, but right now it's still a kid show and it always will be. I don't think they're going to kill off any main characters until the end. Um, but they could surprise me. Sorry, my nose is all stuffy. Red Ness, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan in Rebels. I doubt it. It would be cool. I'd be all for it, but I think oh man, James Arnold Taylor, yeah. Almost blanked on his voice. I think they're probably going to get him. I think they're going to keep the animated cast and keep that consistent from Clone Wars. Adam Lulls, how do I feel about the lack of Bothan deaths in Rogue One? Fine, because they were involved in the second Death Star, not the first. Cody Zeta, do you think Rogue One should be two parts so we can get more of a background of the characters and get more attached with them? I mean, I wish that it were longer, but uh, no, it didn't need to be two parts. I think what's going to happen is they're going to give some more backstory in comics or books or like after the or around the time of the Force Awakens they released a bunch of short stories kind of like the old Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina books that were legends. I am expecting they'll probably do something like that at some point, like they might explain why Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan were there. They'll take some minor characters like maybe Two Tubes more off. Like that's kind of what I'm expecting. But I could see a comic about Baze and Chirrut at some point. I'd like to see Cassian's backstory as well as K2, like maybe how they met originally, how he reprogrammed him, something along those lines. E115 Mastery. Was Biggs there? Some people are claiming they saw him. I did not see him, but in behind the scenes pictures, like you can clearly see Biggs is there. That makes the timeline interesting because I think it was a deleted scene where Biggs is on Tatooine, but it's been canonized by some other sources, like a young reader retelling of the original trilogy. So I think that maybe that's why he wasn't included because that would make the timeline a little wonky. But I mean, he was there in behind the scenes footage, so I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna look for him whenever the Blu-ray comes out. I'll go frame by frame until I find him. But since we're talking about Biggs, General Merrick, I liked him a lot. I'm gonna get his action figure and I'm gonna put him with my Biggs action figure, and they're gonna be mustache bros for life. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question from GameCat. Do you think Ahsoka or any of the other characters from the shows will ever appear in the movies? Well, Chopper did. I don't think we're going to see like live action versions of Kanan or Hera or Ezra. It's possible, but I don't think they're ever going to be like really heavily featured. Same with Ahsoka. I think they're probably going to continue to be relegated to animated. Bombad Warrior, did you catch the Ahsoka reference from Bail Organa? That wasn't referencing Ahsoka, that was referencing Leia and Obi-Wan. Okay. See, I said one more question, but now I keep seeing questions I want to answer. Why could... Okay, Orange Pumpkins. This will be the last one. why could the Death Star only destroy planet's crust? Tarkin had a line that was something like, "We don't need a full show of force." Like he wanted to save the Death Star for a big demonstration, which we see in Alderaan. Um, so he didn't want to straight up destroy the planet. Like, also, really the only reason they did this was because it would have messed up with the canon. Alderaan was the first planet destroyed by the Death Star in canon, so they just did an underpowered shot. He was like, "Don't do full power, just turn it down, just destroy the city." And then they did the same thing with Scarif. They were just destroying areas of planets. They didn't do the full on laser blast. But it is now 12:30. I went an extra 30 minutes because I had fun. But I gotta get going. Thank you all for hanging out. Patrons, I know I realized too late that there was a whole second comment thread that you guys started adding to, so I didn't get to all of your questions, but I will write written responses to that second thread. Thank you all for watching. If you're interested in becoming a patron yourself, there's a link in the description. You can check that out. It's like a dollar a month that helps support the channels. The combined donations really help. And you get some extra cool little things like exclusive Q&A threads and extra discussions and stuff. But that is totally up to you. Thank you all for watching. Really had a lot more people than I was expecting. And this was a lot of fun. I hope you all loved Rogue One. I'm going to try to go see it tomorrow. But I got to get going. So thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.